Hi guys, welcome to the Wealth Project. Today we're having a look at hydrogen fuel, and in particular we're going to have a look at Plug Power Incorporated. So hydrogen fuel in general, you have three types. You have grey, blue and green. Grey is essentially the bad one, made from coal and fossil fuels, and it's basically bad for the environment. Blue is used in like power stations, things like that, and it does emit carbon, but the carbon's captured and basically used in other production processes. And green is, like it sounds, green. It's using green energy, renewable energy, wind farms, solar power, etc., etc. Um, and yeah, basically used by electrolysis of water and to generate hydrogen. The issue a lot of people have had with hydrogen cars is hydrogen as a fuel, because the science behind it is that you obviously make the hydrogen, but you have to generate the electricity to make it. So you generate the electricity via a renewable source, and so you'll then, with 100% energy, say, then you use that to generate electrolysis of the water to produce hydrogen, which is about 60% effective. And then you've got to transport it and compress it, and then you lose another 10%. And then you lose another, I think it's 70% or something after that. So the issue is then the hydrogen is just wasted. It's not as effective. So I think it works out about 38% of the electricity captured by green energy is used effectively for hydrogen cars. So it's just not as effective as electric cars, where it's just basically one solid lump of electricity, if you think about it that way. And it just runs straight from where you source the power. It loses about 5% in transport, and then it powers the car. So that's the main drawback with hydrogen that we found. Morgan, do you want to take us off about Plug Power?
Yeah, so obviously the reason we put Plug Power is because they link very well with the hydrogen. So they're an American company engaged in the development of hydrogen fuel cells that replace the conventional batteries in equipment and vehicles powered by electricity. In terms of their operation, they've been going, I think, for about 20 years now. And these systems are currently still in quite a niche market, but as development goes on with specifically green hydrogen, and obviously with Biden, who's already said he's going to invest, I think, $1.7 trillion dollars in securing the American future. This is why we think Plug Power will link quite well with that.
Yeah, they're not without their doubters either. Plug Power, not long ago, it was a huge hype stock, because you'll see, but obviously you can see there we're at 26 at the moment, and you see where it previously has been. So that's why for a lot of people they've missed the bus and they don't really want to be involved in it. Because if you look sort of around here, there were talks, and it was becoming a big hype stock last year. With a lot of hydrogen stocks, it seemed to be all the range last year. Since then, it's dropped off a little bit, but whilst renewable energies are so in demand, there'll still be hype behind them. So obviously, they went from sort of hovering around 4 or 5 there, all the way up to about 70, yeah. And then they've dropped all the way to 26. Since then, there hasn't been a great deal of change in what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look on the chart, hydrogen has been around for years, but it's only, I think, come on topic recently with obviously global warming, and obviously that's a major thing at the moment. So obviously with Europe as well investing in it, I think it was 2020, 2050 is the date in mind where it seems to be a lot of the countries have to be essentially 100% clean energy.
Yeah.
So I think they said they need to stop the temperatures rising from 1.5 degrees from pre-industrial levels. So I do think that's quite a big ask to be like 100% clean, but obviously with the investments going through obviously investors as well as the government, it's not impossible, but obviously it has to be green hydrogen. And currently it's still not quite there.
No, that's the thing which I think we found with looking at a lot of the hydrogen stocks is that a lot of them just aren't there because the infrastructure isn't there yet for hydrogen. Obviously, part of that agreement by 2050 is China, and they're notoriously awful for anything to do with emissions because they're purely about funding their economy. So that will be the biggest, the biggest challenge will be to get China on board.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can still see these financial results. So what we've got is we're looking at the previous years. Now, their revenue is been growing steadily 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 jumps off a cliff. Where it had the biggest spike, it's just gone. The cost of revenue shot up. So you can see the gross profit, small, growing, gone. And then obviously it's gone again. So it's not particularly looking good for the plug stock. They also, you can see they like to dilute their shares as well, which makes it even worse for investors. Because there's just if your shares are constantly getting diluted to raise money, then it's just not a good investment. For a company as well that they went into negative revenue. Now, technically you can't get negative revenue, but they seem to have created it because they're that awful.
Well, I think nearly half of Plug Power's 2019 revenue came from just 2 customers.
Yeah.
And not
Wow.
the problem is with that is these 2 customers obviously have significant bargaining leverage. So that's a big risk for this company. And obviously another risk is obviously well-established companies coming in, like big electric or oil companies, which obviously can develop them for the market products are a lot cheaper. And obviously that puts Plug Power at risk. I think there is obviously the government promoting this, and obviously their incentives, whether they change. But for me, I think the governments are pretty fixed on hydrogen. I think it's as much as 50% of this global warming bill or infrastructure is actually going to hydrogen. So they're obviously very confident in this. And yeah, I mean, you can read as well, like with electric cars and so on, obviously hydrogen fuel uptime is so much less than, I know we did a video on SMPR with obviously charge times and the rest of it. I'm not sure if we touched on hydrogen then, but obviously the fuel uptime is almost like fueling your car up.
Yeah.
As you do with normal diesel and petrol.
That's the thing with electric cars. Like even Tesla, Elon Musk has said it's great. Electric cars will be fantastic for the next 50 years, but it's not sustainable long term to keep producing these huge lithium batteries. And
in terms of like trucks as well, they were like,
Yeah.
it's almost virtually impossible for what you'd have to do, for the power and obviously the weight as well with electric cars. So, there's pros and cons with this. Obviously, it's highly explosive, but obviously I'm sure they're going to be following heavy requirements when it comes to this.
Yeah. And I guess this wouldn't be the first thing that's highly explosive that's in a car.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, you got petrol at the moment, so technically as well at the moment, I have seen a video on the tanks that they put in the cars, and they're incredibly strengthened. So in the event of a crash, they should just leak out. It shouldn't be a big, huge bang and you're blown to smithereens. Obviously, there shouldn't be any fire either because it's not going up in flames. It should just be basic explosion of the compressed gas. So, hopefully you'll be all right in a crash in a hydrogen car.
I'd like to think, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I think I was a little bit concerned because that was the first thing everyone reads. Is obviously the heavy negatives on it, and it's all going to be regulated as well as like when cars, produced or whatever. There's regulations with everything you have to do. So, So I think trucks will be a great thing for them. I think cars, it might be a little bit competitive with the electric market initially, but I think depending on prices and what they can do in terms of the specs of the car and performance and everything, with the weight distribution, if the hydrogen cars has a massive advantage over that, I think people will go for that.
Yeah.
So is the only application for this technology that they have is the only like main one cars?
It's the one that's been targeted at.
Okay.
That's the on-topic one, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's probably mainly because the size of the market, and a lot of the technology I think has been around for a long time. I haven't seen anyone, to be fair, put it into airlines and planes yet. I'm sure it will come, but haven't seen it yet.
Plug Power is like they do obviously like I think it's Amazon and Walmart with their contracts, and it's like mainly forklifts and stuff like that. So they are broadening it, but I think the big thing is I think they're waiting for the green energy to happen, and I think then it will start to take off. So I think that's the focus at the moment.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to change much.
Yeah. My biggest worry with Plug is this cash flow. Obviously you can see it's gone -60, around -60 again.
Struggle to make a profit.
Yeah, -50 and then -155 the operating cash flow.
Yeah.
So that is pretty scary. Investing cash flow, obviously we don't mind too much that they're investing in non-current assets and things, but obviously you can see all their funding comes from their financing, which is the proceeds of share issues. So they are one of these stocks which are purely funded by the dilution of their shares. So if you're an investor and you're looking at it and you're going, oh, should I invest? Should I buy into this company? You're going, well, my shares are going to be diluted. They've got poor cash flow. They haven't turned a profit, and their gross profit just keeps getting worse and worse each year.
Yeah, I definitely think if you were looking at hydrogen as a play, I think you could say we're early. I think they're still reliant on investments, but if you look at the electric sector and how it started to now, this could be, it could be the same as with hydrogen. So I do think it'd be a long-term investment here. Whether it's almost like one of those, like it's like an S&P 500 where you put it in and you just wait until 2050, and and I think you'll have like the bigger companies, like the big oil companies that will get into this, as well as like Plug Power, and then you will find, and it's finding them, it will be like the penny stock small companies, and there are going to be a couple of those that again are going to do really well, and it's just finding them. And again, it'd be nice to know ahead of time, but it's difficult, and it's just, again, I think that'll be down to how quick they can get green hydrogen going, as well as one or two of them maybe getting the big contracts and hopefully long-term contracts.
That's it. I'm just digging into these financials, and there isn't anything. I was trying to find something good.
Financials aren't great. They've been making losses and everything.
Yeah, and you can see as well from their the second quarter 2021 results. I was just looking at it, and a lot of their money is still coming from financing activities. So it's not necessarily changing.
Investing in the tech before anything happens like that. So,
it's not unheard of, is it? Like we saw with space stock, obviously Virgin Galactic, they were very much the same. but it's just kind of worrying where Virgin Galactic's obviously a lot more sort of future proof. You'd hope to see a little bit more proof in the product by now. Or basically pick up, because the market has picked up. Renewable energy has picked up. The space sector, the space tourism just isn't even a sector. So it's very, very different ways of working. Obviously, they've got a good current ratio because they've got loads more assets than their liabilities, but that's all from just cash. So it's just from those shares again. So
their incentives, what they've said is obviously, I think they had a green hydrogen production plant, and they said, I think it's 15 tons of liquid green hydrogen they'll be able to produce per day. So they're heading in the right way, but they just need the funding. But obviously, you look at the price now, you think, well, with the funding through Biden and Europe and even China, is that going to boost the price up? And that is, I think that's happening soon as well. So obviously, it's a big catalyst for it.
Yeah, I think the question mark is like, if that money does come from Biden or comes from the EU or wherever it comes from, is it going to funnel into this company, or is it going to be more focused on?
But I don't think. I don't know, but I just know it's something like 45 to 50% that's going into hydrogen. So obviously
that's a lot.
It's going to be spread, but for that just to specifically go on hydrogen, where there's other things out there, just shows that the government are supporting hydrogen in the long term.
So this bounce that we saw, it was from about, I think the low was about 4, if I recall what Sam was looking at. It was about 4. Then it went up to over 60, and now we're at 26.
Yeah.
Is that kind of priced in already, or is it? That's my main question. Is like, what is their market cap right now versus their revenue?
I think their market cap's pretty big from memory.
Like at 26, I mean.
I think a market cap 15.28 billion.
I'd say the medium bracket in price wise.
They're not overhyped. I think 60 plus was overhyped.
But it's uncharted companies like in hydrogen. Does anyone actually know what the price is for these companies?
Yeah, that's it. And they have come a long way, don't get me wrong, since obviously those days. So we're not going to see a huge. I wouldn't expect to see a huge spike.
No.
But the thing is, you're worried then if you're looking at this and you go, well, it's already dropped below that spike. If it drops below 24.85, again, you'd expect to then see it go down even further. But it does look like it's rebounding over the past couple of weeks. So if you're looking at the month, so it went down all the way to 23, and now it's going up to 26. But it's difficult to predict it, that's for sure.
I think if you weren't into following stocks and so on, I think you've got 2 ways: is don't invest, or if you are going to invest in Plug Power, put it in and don't look at it for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, you got to really hope Biden's going to come through for you.
Yeah, and in terms of myself, I haven't invested in this, and I don't think I will yet. I just think it's at a vulnerable level in comparison to other hydrogen plays, and where they're sitting at. I think it's just there's not a lot of room. There's not a cushion. You can say, at least it can get to this point, and then I've got like a 10% cushion here.
That's it. I think I'd agree with that, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not the best. But there's plenty more hydrogen stocks out there, all clean energy stocks, which could be worth a better punt. Like the only reason Plug has sort of come up recently is because it's dropped from that 70 area all the way down to 25, and hydrogen and green energy's in, so people are looking back at it. Yeah. I don't think, for me, it wouldn't be worth investing in it, or if I did, it would just be a complete gamble.
Just follow along, specifically with the green hydrogen. and
Yeah.
see how well they're doing in that. And the quicker they can do that, the more confident I'll be in investing in this specific company.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you very much, guys. It's been purely for entertainment purposes, obviously, not financial advice. Thank you for watching the Wealth Project, and we hope to see you again next time.